Let's start with Rob Orich. This is a guy, he wasn't talked about a ton. I don't know if that's a bad thing. There's a lot of similarities I see between him and other folks that were talked about, and we know that Rule and company talked to a lot of the guys that were talked about on this program, other programs, that had guys in the building that were interviewing guys. This is the guy we end up hiring. My first question for you, and obviously we got a lot to get to here, but Jake, do you think, because there was a sense of urgency with the timing of making a hire sooner rather than later, do you feel like there was a rush to make this hire? Is this the appropriate amount of time? Like, just as far as the amount of time that went into, I mean, long over a week ago, John Butler was still a D coordinator, but at the same time, transfer portal's coming, you're recruiting high school kids, things are moving fast. You want to get a good coach before somebody else nabs him before you do. What are your thoughts on the timing of the hiring? Just real quick, Jake.
Well, I think we saw that play out in front of us as well. I mean, Vince Garris was reportedly in town while national reports were going out that he had accepted the Syracuse job. So you got to go kind of quick with these things if you want to get, the top names. Other schools are also looking to fill their staff out. So, I mean, timing wise, I think they had to get to it, and they're doing it in a spot where he's going to be able to, Arch that is going to be able to step in a little bit, kind of get a little bit to know with the bowl preparation and practices and such. So I think that's a benefit to it as well. Obviously, transfer portal is going to open up all that sort of thing. So I think they had to move pretty quickly here.
Does it bother you at all that Vince Garris was in town and Syracuse got him while he was in town?
It's odd. I wouldn't say it bothers me. Aurich, I think, has a pretty good, as close to it's the same type of hire, if you will, a group of five guy with, a lot of upside, really good stats from this past season. So, it is one of those things, but I always kind of go back and, years from now, obviously these guys are going to have very different trajectories in their career. They're going to go different places. We're going to see how they turn out. So in that way, to always be maybe a little bit counted against them, maybe Arch wasn't the first choice, but he wasn't far down that list.
Honestly, you look at the top 10 total defenses in the country, it's who you would expect. It's Ohio State. There's Indiana. There's Oregon. There's all these schools. Do you know the school right behind Indiana, the top 10 in total defense? Indiana's number 6. You know who number 7 is? It's San Diego State.
Yeah.
Rob Orich, the guy we just hired. Number 7 total defense in the country, right behind Indiana. Toledo was also in there. That's why I asked you about Vince, because they were the two teams that just from a brand recognition standpoint, the top 10 total defense in the country just don't fit. Because apparently now Indiana does. I was like, what? Indiana fits? I didn't bat an eye at Indiana. That's Indiana. You win a Big Ten championship with a bunch of 3 stars, not a single 5-star. Somebody told me no 4 stars. I'd have to verify that. But a bunch of James Madison transfers, 3 stars. They have the 72. I'm actually going to talk slowly for a second. The number 72 overall ranked roster in the country when it comes to talent composite rankings. Ohio State's 3. You know who's also ahead of Indiana?
I can guess.
Yeah, you can. Do I have to say it? Can we just move on? Well ahead of Indiana?
Yeah.
Okay. Development, coaching, in-game management, emphasizing the parts of the team that matter the most. That's why Indiana's ahead of Nebraska. That's why, and Ohio State's a good team. Ryan Day's a really good coach. I'm not questioning any of that. So for me, you have to prioritize. This is going to sound so silly. You have to prioritize the things that need to be prioritized. In other words, the most important things, and not get caught up in the flash in the pan, fancy pants stuff. That's what Indiana does. I'm still stunned, dude. The fact that it was close, the fact that it was competitive, did not surprise me. There was part of me that was a little concerned Indiana would lose by 2 to 3 touchdowns, but I really didn't expect it. When they won, when Ohio State's kicker missed the field goal, you can ask my wife. I stood there with my jaw on the floor just staring at the TV. I'm like, Indiana's going to beat Ohio State and win the Big Ten championship. My jaw was on the floor. The best 2-year coaching job I've ever seen in the history of my life when it comes to anything. Any age, any sport, any level. The capability of shocking the world is there. Duke is your ACC champions, ladies and gentlemen. Are they the best team in the ACC? No, but they're your ACC champs. Indiana is the best team in the Big Ten, and you're Big Ten champs. Texas Tech, by the way, later this week before the college football playoff starts, I have not gone down and broken down each of the matchups, like who I think is going to win round 1, round 2, and go all the way to the national championship like we did last year. We will. I'm telling you right now, I don't know who I'm picking to oust Tech. Just if you want to know what I think of Texas Tech. Texas frickin' Tech. I sent you a clip of the billionaire donor and how they built Tech. We don't gonna have time to get to it today. We'll get to it either tomorrow or Thursday of how they built Tech's roster. First of all, they spent a boatload of money. It helps to having a billionaire donor. But man, things can change so fast. Again, back to Nebraska, back to our defense. Rob Orich. This is a guy who's been a defensive coordinator for 9 years. His 10th season as a defensive coordinator will be here at Nebraska this fall. He started coaching in 2014. Everywhere he goes, his teams get better. They improve. They get better from the year before he was there. And the years that he's there, they get better in each and every year. It started at FCS with Idaho. I've been there. There's not a lot to attract people to play football there, with all due respect. Beautiful state in the summer. Don't know why, because you can't ski under God's hot sun. You live there in the winter. But it is a beautiful, gorgeous place, and it's hard to get good football players there. He did it there. Idaho, by the way, used to be an FBS school. They were recruiting me when they were in the FBS. Now they've been FCS for a long time. The first school I ever told, I got more callous as time went along, but the first school I ever said I'm officially no longer interested in your school was Idaho State. I remember sitting in my dad's office, picking up the phone to call the guy, and I just felt so terrible. I look back on it now, and I'm like, people wouldn't think twice. They probably wouldn't even call the guy to let him know now. Just move it on. Not going to tell you. This is an individual who's not coached Power 4, who's not coached the Big 2, Big 10, or SEC, but he's a guy everywhere he goes, every level from FCS. Then you go, and he started, where was the school before? Let me see, I've got it here. Bermuda State. I think I'm saying that right. Then he went up a level, okay, to FCS with Idaho. Then he went up to San Diego State. He was there for 1 season, and then they promoted him to defensive coordinator, which I thought was interesting. To only be in the FBS level for 1 year, and then your school trusts you enough to promote you to defensive coordinator. I was like, that's interesting. That's a heck of a compliment. Then in 1 year, they jumped from 97 scoring defense in the entire country to 5. They jumped to the top 10 in total defense. They were 5th ranked in pass defense, 22nd ranked in rushing defense. They get their opponents off the field 70% of the time when it comes to third down efficiency as a defense. They were top 25 in every statistical category for 1 year. You can also say he transformed that defense in 1 year. Again, they were almost 100th when it came to scoring defense the year before. The way with which he transformed that defense, the speed with which he did it, I'm telling you, every year his defenses get better. Has he done it at Power 4? No. Has he done it in the Big 2, Big 10, SEC? No. Is there a bit of a risk to that? Absolutely. Is there a high ceiling with this guy that I've had people tell me, potential head coach one day? Yes. Is there a risk with it as well because you haven't seen it yet? Yes. It would have been the same thing with the guy from Toledo, the Toledo coach, who's now at Syracuse. It irks me. Syracuse. Now, maybe Coach Orich was our pick over him. We don't know that. All we know was the Toledo guy was in town. That's all we know. It may not have mattered. Maybe he went to Syracuse because we chose Rob Orich over him. Like, we don't know definitively one way or the other, do we, Jake?
Not necessarily, no.
So there you go. So there's a certain amount of risk. There's also a high ceiling. What I can tell you is his teams have never once stayed the same. They've never once gotten worse from year to year. You go, because I want to talk about the floor with him here at Nebraska. And I want to get your opinion on what the floor is. This ceiling is number 1 overall defense, et cetera, et cetera. How realistic that is right away, I don't know that that's incredibly realistic. But again, Indiana, Duke, Texas Tech. All right, come back. Topic at hand. Tony White's first season, we were 11th ranked defense in the country. The season before that, we were in the 90s. So a big jump can happen. The next season, we dropped to 19th, still top 20. This past season, not bad, 22 overall. What was bad was the run defense, almost 100th. Here's my question to you. Is the floor, year 1, Rob Orich, Nebraska's defensive coordinator, is the floor, because his defenses don't stay the same, they don't get worse, they get better, is the floor number 21, the 21st overall ranked defense in the country? Is that fair to expect next year?
I wouldn't quite say that. I think that's like I just hesitate to put it as the
or 22.
certainty.
Just stay the same.
Well, but like you said, I mean, there is the one big question is going to be Big Ten. Okay, so
Yeah.
I mean, you are moving up a level. To his credit, this past year, shut out Cal. That's a 7-5 team.
3 shutouts this year, by the way.
Shut out Fresno State. That's an 8-4 team. These aren't just shutting out.
Yeah.
Somebody that's somebody lower on the schedule. So I really like the hire. I'm excited to see what happens. Because of it. But I can't quite get to the point that automatically this is going to be a hire that doesn't fall out from underneath you. I don't think it will. But again, you're talking about uncharted territory a little bit for him. So
I think it's fair that the floor is 22 because he always gets better. And think how god awful we were at stopping the run. Can we just be average at stopping the run? Kind of like I said with special teams, I'm just going to say be average and we'll be top 20.
But you don't hire somebody whose trajectory is going down generally.
Yeah.
And not all hires work out. So that's what I'm just saying. I'm a little bit more worried about the floor than you are.
No. I didn't say the floor was. I posed it as a question to you. I didn't say yet what I thought the floor was. I want to hear your thoughts.
I don't think the bottom possibility of this is a top 25 defense. No.
Do you remember going into last year? Because I was like, we've been a top 20 going into last year defense 2 years in a row. And if John Butler can keep us in the top 30, I said I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
That came back to bite us in the butt because you also have got to remember certain areas matter more than others. Stopping the run is more important, especially in November in the Big Ten, playing Penn State and Iowa, who are going to struggle to just do a forward pass, although they average 18 yards per pass completion against us. But when you can run the ball at will, you got to stop the run. Then when you do pass, you're going to get big plays. Unfortunately, that worked against Nebraska's favor. I look at the amount of guys we have coming back up front. I look at what we have got to do in the transfer portal. You got to start with getting some bigger bodies, especially a nose guard. We're going to a 4-man front. We got 4-man line defensive linemen. We got guys who can rush off the edge. We did not have 3-down guys. We did not have the personnel to run a 3-down. We had to stunt and do all these things all over the place. And when you try to, you're going to get penetration, which we didn't get a lot of tackles for loss. We didn't get a lot of sacks. And then the trade-off for when you penetrate, you're supposed to get a lot of penetration in the backfield, which we didn't get. And then you're supposed to, you might give up a bigger run here or there when you're caught out of your gap. We just got caught out of our gap without a lot of the penetration. These guys should be back. Barring transfer portal, we should also be bringing in guys. They should be a year bigger, faster, stronger. If we can just be improved at stopping the run, I don't expect us, not saying we can't be, I don't expect us to be number 3 or 2 in the country stopping the pass like we were a year ago. Not that we can't be, but again, we're losing some guys in the secondary. We'll see what happens there. I think 2 things have not been pointed out yet when it comes to him next year. And he's got time. Let's see how this plays out. I'm not saying, this is definitively one way or the other. And he's going to have time. Don't walk in the room and say the players aren't good enough. And he'll probably have more than one season. I would assume that's a fair shot to get better and keep improving the defense. 2 things have not been pointed out. San Diego State runs an up-tempo offense. That's great for scoring points. That's hard on your defense. It's hard because when you score, you get off the field quicker. They're back on the field, and they're on the field longer. When you don't score, you're off the field even quicker, and they're back on the field even longer. I will never forget RG3's rookie year. He was the offensive player, the rookie of the year. We were doing all the read option, the RPO. Kaepernick was still in San Francisco doing a lot of similar things, tearing up the league. And, Robert tears his ACL. And so he spent a lot of time rehabbing, a lot of time talking to Shanahan. And I had torn the quad tendon in my knee, so we spent a lot of time together. And he came down into the training room just furious. Oh, it's like January, February. Like nobody's there except us hurt bozos. And he's pissed. Him and Shanahan just got into it. And because he wants to run his up-tempo offense, put a lot of points on the board that they ran at Baylor. He won the Heisman Trophy under, and Shanahan said no. He said no. We've got to have a balanced all 3 phases. If our offense is constantly on and off the field, you're putting more stress on the defense. This is a long season. The NFL's a lot more games. It's a lot more physicality. It's not as good for the team as a whole, even though it's better for the offense specifically. And so he said no. Robert was furious. He was furious about this. Come back to San Diego State. They run up tempo. It's not better for the defense. Now, they feel it's better for the team as a whole. Obviously, they did it because they want to score more points, and that was their emphasis. What he did at San Diego State, again, top 5 pass defense, top 25 rush defense, top 5 scoring defense. They allowed 4.12 yards per play this year, 3.22 yards per catch. under 110 yards rushing per game. They only allowed 5 rushing touchdowns all year, and they were on the field a lot more. That has not been talked about enough. The other thing, when it goes to next year, I actually think it's fair to expect the floor to be 22. Number 22 or better. Because look at how much we struggled this year. And if we're just a little bit better at stopping the run, we don't have to be quite as good at stopping the pass. And actually, I don't know, put somewhat pressure on the quarterback. I think 22 is a reasonable floor, barring one thing. Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, and I'll even throw Iowa in there. The schedule is a lot tougher next year. That's the only reason the floor might be lower than number 22 as far as total defense in the country next year. And actually, I get more focused on scoring defense. But that's the only thing that makes me think, all right, as long as we keep in the top 30, the other thing that didn't help, because I was like, all right, we'll be a top 30 defense coming into this year, worst case scenario, hopefully. I kind of thought our offense would be top 20, and it was not. It was not even top 40 by the end of the year. So if we can keep the defense top 30 and the offense top 30, now we're cooking with peanut oil, which my kids don't understand what that means. I kind of don't. My mom said it all the time. She's an older lady who apparently cooks a lot with peanut oil because she's not allergic to peanuts. My point is the offense has to help out too. The special teams did their part. The defense statistically was better, although the stop on the run was just atrocious because we didn't do it. The offense has to do their part as well next year. It's all complementary. Does that make sense? Final thoughts before we head to break, because we're actually on time for once, Jake.
Yeah, it does make sense. I think you do a good job of kind of pointing out the offense, the quick tempo offense there. I'm so fascinated to see this work. There's going to be people that are going to continue to question, not all Matt Rule's hires have necessarily gone perfectly. So, you're gonna kind of express some concern there. I think a lot of it's going to be about the players that you can get on the field. At San Diego State, he had the defensive player of the year. How much of that is because he's propping them up, or how much of that is the players are kind of helping him out as a coach look good? Defensive back Chris Johnson was that, by the way, had a first team all Mountain West player at every level of the defense too. So that was impressive as well. So I'm excited to see how it works. I think it's a hire with a lot of upside, like you said. I mean, trajectory wise, if this is a big step, but if this step goes right, I mean, this guy could be coaching, be the head coach of a college football team someday. So the best of luck to him. But again, back to that player point, you got to do some work in the portal. A lot of blame going on John Butler. I get it, but there might have been more of a GM problem than a coaching problem this past year. I'm not convinced one way or the other, but definitely an argument.
It's going to say, You made a point last week, and I wanted to come back to it, and I forgot, but you just reminded me of it because you said our defense didn't have their version of Emmett Johnson that we had on offense. I think that's a fair point. I think something else that can go along with that, we don't have Emmett Johnson if Dana Holgerson doesn't identify Emmett Johnson and start playing him, because we've had Emmett Johnson for 3 years, but we only used Emmett as Emmett Johnson for 1 year. So I wonder if there were some guys on defense that maybe weren't spotted or maybe weren't utilized to the degree they could have, or maybe they're a year away like Emmett was, although Emmett could have done a lot of things had he just seen the field the first half of last year. So sometimes you have players, sometimes you don't identify them, you don't use them properly, or you don't develop them, and you never know. So I wonder what our defense could have been if we could have had someone similar, just not even an Emmett Johnson, but just higher level of play, and how that might have looked differently. Because when you talk about the players he had at San Diego State, part of that's having the players. Part of that is identifying, put them in the right spot, developing them, and letting them do their thing once they've been put in a position to succeed.